Hello YouTube. I thought I'd say a few words about these gospel boats. They're made in China. There's not too much on the internet about them, only the factory stuff. So I've had this one for 12 months. Just go over a few things, like the welding. The welding on them's, it's pretty good. There's not too much that's wrong with it. I mean, the paintwork and that's a little bit shabby in some spots. This spot right here, took it up to Hervey Bay. It's pretty much its first trip out there, and I don't know if I hit something or a piece of fairly there. It's only about 100 mil. Don't know if I hit something or if it just fell out, but I've done 160 hours on the hole in the water now, and that was the only problem as far as the paintwork goes. And we've been out in some pretty rough conditions. So these boats, they're an Australian design. They're built in China. So the early ones were pretty bad that come over, but I think as the years have progressed, their manufacturing standards have got a lot better over there, and they've got a few QAs. Well, they've got QAs and that in there now. So one thing I like about these boats, a lot of their wells are exposed, so you can actually see the welding. It's not covered up by bog or anything, so it's all pretty good. It's marine grade aluminium that they use. There's another view. It's all fairly straight. So they do a really good job as far as the welding goes and the fabrication. I think they've really got their stuff together now. There's a little bit more there. So there's some of that welding's better than some of the welding I've seen on the Australian boats. I mean, there's still some packing tape marks on it, but it's actually pretty good. Modification I've done, I've got rid of that flap and made up a plate, a couple of 3-inch pipes welded on it, and a couple of bits of lay flat hose. That's a pretty good idea. It lets water out of the boat, but doesn't let water in the boat, unlike that flap. Now there's a few things that aren't straight, but all in all, over the whole boat, I mean, it's pretty minor. There is a couple of cracks starting, but that's in the roof line. So all the way to the roof is just down on that one corner. And there's some on this side as well. It's cracking around there. I think if they left the wells there and didn't grind them back, there's a lot more strength in the wells. You need to V them out if you're going to grind them back flush. But yeah, they should have just left the wells showing there, or they could put another plate over them. I mean, it's just another design thing that if Roger's watching this video, he might take on board. A lot of the fittings, all the stainless, not all the stainless fittings, but all the stainless bolts and that was in it, a hose clamp and hoses. You've really got to get into these boats when you get them. rip all the floor up, get rid of all the hoses, because the hoses and that's in them, and the stainless fittings, like the hose clamps and all the bolts, it's all substandard stainless, so it just rusts. So if they use different grade of stainless and some better fuel hoses, they'd be a lot better. But I mean, for the sake of a few bucks, then you got peace of mind. So the deck wash that come over with it, I got rid of. I put a Jazco, I think a Jazco one in there. I put a freshwater tank up the front, so that's a fresh and salt water. The valve there, so you can go fresh or salt water. It's good for the pump too, like when you get back you can run a bit of fresh water through the pump. I'll show you that tank now. Well, one thing I did leave on there was that anchor winch, which is pretty good. It hasn't given me any grief yet. I've done a bit of work with it, so it's still working as it should do. So a good winch, I think. And that's the tank. So that's 35 litres. Just sits in there, tucked out of the way. And there's just 4 bolts. 2, 3, 4. And then the hose runs down the gunnel to the back. As you can see, the welding on it, it's pretty good. And the paintwork seems to be holding up. The windscreen, the clears, everything come with it. I put a solar panel on it, 200 watt, which runs the fridge. Haven't really changed too much about it. I like the way it works. There is a pipe, I don't know if you can see that. It goes down into the pipe runs down into the fuel tank area, and the 2 wires that come off your fuel centers, they go up to the dash. Obviously I've just taken the fuel centers out, that's autopilot wires. But there was a bit of a fuel smell coming up in there, but since I've Celastic that off, I haven't had any fuel smell. Some of the other boys were saying about a fuel smell, which was hose clamps or other things, but that's what I found. So that pipe there, so that's all sealed off now. The plate for the engine control, I just had to make that up. The Suzuki engine control has, you need 100mm behind there, so I just had to add a little bit to that. Fly by wire, it's a great system, fly by wire, I love it. Put a couple of drink holders in, just got them off eBay. Stainless is not real good in that. You can see it's starting to rust already, so obviously it's not marine grade. Just put a 2-way stereo in it and just left the other side for a bit of storage. Overhead console, speakers in the usual spot, deck light. A few paint issues there. But all in all, it's pretty good. There's a little bit more welding there. And over there. So Ben Noble, he was the one that designed these boats, originally an Australian design. And Jason Lee, I think he bought the design off Ben Noble and took it to China and then sold it over there. And they started mass producing these boats in different factories. So this is a Gospel boat. After doing a bit of research, I think the Gospel factory was probably one of the better factories. Not too many bad reports about that factory. The Suzuki 300, it's got a 3x16 17R prop. That's about the right prop for this size boat. This is a 7.5 metre boat. It does about 67 k's an hour at about 5.7, 5.8 revs to. I had an 18.5 inch prop on it to start with, and it only revved to 5.3. So we got rid of that and put this prop on it. The fuel economy with this motor is, it's about 1.4 when you're down in the bays like Calm, and then offshore when you're loaded, like you go on a trip and you're full of fuel, ice and a few mates and that, like we fish up at 1770 a lot, so it's about 1.2. One thing I will say about the fuel tanks, they're supposed to be 180. They measure 180, but because of the way the pickup is, they're not V'd or anything. They've got a big flat bottom in them, and they only pick up like 150 litres of fuel. So just be aware of that if you get them, that you're sort of 60 litres down on the fuel. What I did to the bottom of them is I put like a little sump in with the pickup down in it to try and get, I get 170 litres out of them now. Maybe that's something else they can rectify too, is maybe put a little V or something in the bottom of it so that you can get the 180 litres fuel out of them. It'd be nice if they were 200s, like there's plenty of room under the floor, just to get that little bit extra fuel, especially in these bigger boats that the boys want to travel a bit wider in. The trim tabs come on it as well. Barnett had one drama which burned out a solenoid, but that got replaced under warranty. I did get a 3-year warranty through Scariff Boats at Pinkenba. That's where I bought it from. I don't even know if they're dealing in them anymore. I did ring them up about that fuel tank issue, but they didn't really want to know about it. They just told me to read the terms and conditions, which I thought was a bit rude, but anyway, lucky I can rectify things myself. But I mean, for the boys who want to buy one of these boats, I mean, they're a cheap boat. You can't get anything over here like a Hot Works boat this size. You'd be lucky to get it for 40 grand. I mean, you can get these things in between 20 to 40,000 painted, where they're just up to the stage where you need to bolt electronics and a motor on them, and basically you've got a boat for around 80 grand, brand spanner. You can't even buy a second-hand platey for that these days. So anybody who's thinking about getting one, like I said, I've had this one for over 12 months. This is actually my second one. I had a 685 before this one. I just wanted something a little bit bigger, so I got the 7.5. And you know, they cop a lot of flack, but they're actually not a bad built boat, really. I mean, they just need to tidy up a few of their processes over there and they'll be a really good boat. So yeah, if you want to know anything else, just leave it in the comments below, and I'll see you on the next one.